Thibaut Duverneix from Gentilhomme is here with us. I'm very excited to have him here today. Got a preview of the presentation. It looks fantastic. The work is beautiful. Thibaut, take it away.
Thank you, Josh, and thank you so much for having me and starting 2026. Hi, everybody. I see a lot of faces that I know here. It's fun. My name is Thibaut Duverneix. I know it's really hard to say and spell. You can just call me Thibaut and forget about the last name. And I'm the founder and executive creative director of Gentilhomme Studio based in Montreal, Canada. Um, and today I wanted to talk about world building, which is kind of a I don't know, it's kind of a generic theme, but specifically about blending physical and digital, and talk about this idea that humans have been building story worlds for as long as humans have existed. Also, that sounds kind of obvious, but I like to start with to introduce myself kind of personally and come from a personal path into what I do now and why I think it makes sense, at least to me. I come from this village in France, in the south of France. It's called the Dordogne, and the village is called Dom. It's in the southwest region. This is what it looks like. So the whole village is called a Bastille, and it's basically a castle, but the village is the castle, so it's all fortified. And it sits on the highest point of the valley, so that way you can see the Brits trying to invade us, and we can pour some oil on them. And that was created in 1281. And to make your way through the village, you have to go from one of the four doors. Those are the three small ones, and there is a big one, and it's called La Porte des Tours, which means the door of the towers. And what's funny about those doors is back in 1307, they served as an interesting function. They were used for jail as the Knight Templars that were imprisoned in the village until we decided to just forget about them or maybe have a trial. And when you go inside, this is what it looks like still now. So they were doing all of this kind of graffiti and storytelling, and obviously everybody is trying to understand what it meant. There was a lot of, Grail Quest stuff. But it's an interesting place. And there is another unexpected thing in the village, which is a cave that goes under the whole Bastide. And it's a quite magical place. And we have a lot in the region. And the one that is about half an hour away, just a few miles away, that you must know that it was discovered in 1940 by accident. It's called the Grotte de Lascaux. It was discovered by four kids, and they were running with their dog, and the dog went through like a small path and a tunnel and kind of disappeared. And the kids went to find their dog, and they kind of discovered this crazy cave. And then they went back to get their teacher, and that's how the whole cave was discovered. And I think what's funny and kind of on point is the dog name was called Robot. Um, this is what it looked like. And inside of it, you can see all of those human paintings, and it was done 17,000 years ago. And then it's closed now because of degradation and oxygen and dioxide. When you visited them, it's kind of in a bad shape, but they did like an exact replica, which is kind of stunning. But I got to see it when I was a kid, the real one. And when you get to the Great Hall of the Bulls, it can hold up to 50 people. And I like to believe that it was the first immersive exhibit that was created by mankind, at least that we know of. And I don't know if they were selling tickets, and it's a funny thing because people are always trying to, you have all of the historians and the paleontologists trying to find reasons, and like it's that it must have a use, or it was like maybe I think it was just entertainment. To me, that's what I like, because nobody has answer, and I like to think that it was just entertainment. And back to the opening of Sphere, the first thing they did was to do a cave. So I think it makes sense. And then I ended up moving out of this region to study cinema, then computer science, then fine art. Then it took me to Canada to do a program called computation art at Concordia. Um, and I really liked the fine art in France, but like fine art in France almost 20 years ago was still is. There is like a very pretentious thing about it where it's kind of for the elite, like art, it's for the educated, it's for the people who have a PhD or a master, and And don't get me wrong, I did really good at that, but I just didn't like that thing. And to me, I wanted to reach a lot of people. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to people to experience art, whether they were educated about it or not. And some of my teachers are like, well, you just want to do entertainment, you know? And I'm like, well, yeah, entertainment is not a bad word for me. I think entertainment is great. Because you can actually have meetings and you can deliver the work to more people and, you know, they can touch it, they can experience it, and they don't have to be pretentious about it. And that's kind of why well, lots of people, hey, Todd. That's why I founded the studio called Gentilhomme. I figured that if people can say my name, it was a good idea, so they can't even say the name of my studio either. And, it means gentleman as a word for word translation, but it doesn't mean the same thing because in France it's a noble title, and it's also kind of mercenaries. So you have this type of thing where you get to do things your own way, but you have a very strong code of honor. But we just get shit done. Um, and this is our new branding. We just did a rebrand too. Um, and we started doing all sorts of projects, you know, very grounded in music. And over the last decade, did music, live shows, film entertainment, and more recently, a lot of public spaces projects. And we've been creating shows and music video for artists such as Katy Perry, Elton John, Tierra Whack, Tovelo, Fall Out Boy. Work with Cirque du Soleil, Disney, um, strong relationship with our friends at Mia Wolf. And in terms of transportation hubs, we've been successfully creating great projects at Orlando, Nashville, Houston, and now at JFK Terminal 1. And the one thing that all of these projects have in common, they're all different in terms of medium, but in terms of engagement and to create unexpected participation from people and to go out of the ordinary in order to allow themselves to be surprised has always been our focus. I have a demo reel. I'm just going to show that and grab a bit of water. So that gives you an idea. We do weird projects, and we don't really specialize in mediums, I guess. But if we had to, it would be digital art experience and immersive architectural live cultural destination. And now we also have products that we develop and implement. And in terms of service, it's kind of the usual. Um, Oh, and I have a logo page. I don't like logo page, but I think what's funny about that logo page is they're so diverse and opposite direction. And I think that kind of reflects what we like to do, which is not caring really about the medium, and we like to do things that seems impossible, and we make them beautiful, funny, and they don't break. Um, and talking about unexpected engagement, to get people out of the ordinary and to explore and to allow themselves to be surprised. Since the Lascaux cave, I'm going back to my main thing, which is humans have been creating worlds to tell stories. And stories all of that. But then we got fellow Canadian Marshall McLuhan in the 60s saying that, yeah, it doesn't really matter because, medium is the message or the message as it was published. Um, and it was meant to basically say that it's like the medium influence so much the message that it doesn't really matter anymore. And I always go back and forth between what I think about this and one day I agree and the other day I hate it. But I think one thing for sure is we have to acknowledge that the medium um, very carefully when we do work so it tells the story the right way. But now also it's a bit different because there is so much overload in terms of media, and there is not like a clear dominance like at the time when you had TV. That was when TV got out. But now you have text, video, audio, VR, AR, all of this coexist simultaneously. So there is not like a single medium that's going to fully reshape uh, our cognition anymore. Um, so when everything is a medium, no single medium is the message. So the effect becomes more like fragmented and unstable and kind of negotiable. Um, but I think that since like the technology, um, I'm looking at comments at the same time. Sorry. Yeah, I agree. I agree, totally. But I'm using that to get to the point that we still choose tech first. Like tech is always kind of the thing that gets people excited. It's like, hey, we're gonna build the biggest screen, the biggest thing, and sure, fine, it's all fun, like bringing the bigger screen, I love it. But we still need to think about what we're gonna do, and we kind of have to design the tech with that, which is not really always the case, right? And we're trying to change that quite a bit. Um, and I go back to the absolutely obvious that kind of brought multimedia to the masses during pandemic or right before, I guess, which is the Van Gogh stuff. And obviously, like when you go to see a Van Gogh painting, it's a very, very intimate feeling, right? It's something that's very special, and it really do tell that story of the painter. You can feel it, like the madness and then being in the asylum and like painting the same scene over and over, like you really get that feeling. And then that thing came in, and that thing is not about it's not about the painter. It doesn't matter, the painter was just the marketing, and it's about can you imagine being able to walk into a painting? And most people never went into an immersive room, and they felt like that would be amazing, but that phased away super quickly, and we all know that that's what happened. So I would say that it takes way more to do something engaging, and to me, it comes by truly trying to blend tech with analog, which is what we always try to do. Like this is some R&D that we've been doing continuously, and this one was about shadow playing and how we can connect that with uh, simple interfaces that are very analog. Again, very simple. And then we have another one because we developed this tech at the studio, which we have like our own like tracking software that can be used to track, to do like a shape recognition, movement tracking, lidars, like time of flight cameras or whatever, and we can aggregate all of this into a single pan software that lives on the IT world. But every time we do an upgrade to that, we add a creative project. So those are not client driven. And this one, this is when we were doing like shape recognition, and we decided to do this musical project that would get that feeling to people to be able to do music together, even if you don't know how to make music. So you just have balls that falls by gravity, and when they bounce on the wood blocks, they create a sound. Um, there is also this project. This is not ours, but I thought it was really cool. It's a Pixar project that they did somewhere. I don't even know. But again, it's very simple, but it works because it's really deeply tied to the story. And you have this little twitch when you open the door, you see the toy just like twitching just a little bit. I think it's very effective because it creates like a personal connection. Um, there is a love project called Pop, an interactive inflatable puppet installation that was designed for the coldest month of winter in Montreal. The idea is to scream into a pod to convince the creator to get out of the box. And once they do, if you trigger them at the same time, they give you a show. And um, surprisingly very successful. And it's been touring a lot of places in the US and cities. It was the launch in Montreal. But again, it's about creating unexpected things and get people to do things together, even if they don't know each other. One is also riffing on our software. We did that for South by Southwest. It's connecting ordinary objects from daily life into this is like a flashlight collection. All of the music and the visuals are explored and generated in Pixel. And like all of these projects are very small, and I'd like to talk about entertainment at scale. So going back to human have been creating immersive worlds for as long as human have existed. Um, I think um, to go back to what Mia Wolf does, like it takes you out of your ordinary life and it brings you into this magical space, like they take you out of the predictable. But human, they love the routines, like I was telling Josh, I remember being in Bangkok in 2014 doing a project for a long time. And at some point, I wanted to get some coffee just like I had at home, I wanted my third wave coffee with oat milk and flat white and blah blah blah. And I found one right away next to our hotel. And I was with Dave, the musical composer, and we loved it. And but it's because it's comforting. And also we had like a great Italian restaurant there. And I was just like, man, like everything is starting to become very similar and unified everywhere. And I feel like it's very comforting. It's really nice, but then people need to get out of the predictable and that's where Meow comes in, like they that's what they do. They take you from what you expect and what you know. They make you crawl into a rabbit hole to bring you into a magical place. Just like the kids did when they crawled into the foxhole to discover the cave. Except here it's a fridge. Um, And at Gentilhomme, we've been committed to transforming what we like to call non-spaces into new engaging worlds. And for us, we've been engaged with what we feel is the most non-space at all, which is the airport. And our first airport project was for the Orlando airport, where we created more than 5 hours of experiential content across 3 media features. Um, I'll show you a video. The idea was to showcase the known and the unknown of Orlando. And behind aesthetic, the installation, they increased dwell time, then enhanced the passenger satisfaction, and also drove revenue growth because we can control and encourage passenger to explore more terminal constellation and affect the dwell time. So the result was that the traveler left with a memorable expression, which is really good for the brand and the city, but they also gain business benefit. So this feature was meant to be a window, so we faked all of the perspective to make sure everything was done on a one-on-one ratio, and every screen is about 6K resolution, and we treated it like a single canvas, so everything that we shot was like perfectly aligned with the viewing angle. and also all of the calibration of colors and brightness to make sure that it would feel like a window. And this one was meant to be more engaging. It's called Moment Vote. And outside, it was more like an oasis, so a bit like peaceful and passive. But the idea was to get people inside so they can interact with the content, which is also driven in Unreal Engine. And we can track people in real time. It's about like 50 or 25 people, I think. And they can interact with the content. And we did also original music, prevalence to the content in live action, manatees, lots of nature. It was really fun. For about 5 weeks there. And then when we were doing Orlando, Nashville called us because they were finishing their terminal, and they had like a different situation, which is they had those giant screens at TSA, but they didn't know really what to do with it. So we went with them to explore the strategy, how they can create an identity and a sense of place and creating some engaging content, but also do some aggregation of a system because they didn't have much. They were using Omnivex for all of their fits, bids, and gids, and then they had to aggregate that into another system. And actually, Pixar was spec'd to do that with Smart Monkeys to do it. So here the idea was to create that sense of place, something engaging, but not too much because you don't want to create a bottleneck like a TSA that's really bad.
Il faut atteindre 5% de la population. Il faut arrêter ça.
Yeah, we closed Broadway for tonight. So we kind of recreated that whole landscape. It's really match again the perspective and create this illusion that it's not a screen. We're trying to hide the technology and the screen to be part of the architecture. Like the neon walls, when you go by, you feel like it's a real thing. We like drones too. And the most recent one is in Houston. I see some of my collaborators are here, I guess. So we work with Ford AV, Nanolumens, Pixar is running the whole thing. It's a beautiful piece of architecture. It's almost like, I think it's 40,000 pixels by 1600 or 1800 something. But the shape is crazy because it's an oval and there is a curve. So all of the mapping is, you have to account for all of the distortion that goes with it. And all of the content is 2/3 is generative and interactive, all in real time in Unreal, using 6 Pixar servers. The whole CMS is designed by Smart Monkeys. And we did also some live action and 3D. And I show you the video. And here the goal of the stakeholders was to truly create an impact that is artistic and again, an identity, but it was more like a brand effort and also like an art curation. So we had a lot of freedom, and honestly, it was just an amazing client, and we had a lot of fun. Great partners too. And the next one is going to be JFK Terminal 1 that we did in collaboration with Arup. And I think you had Leo a couple of weeks ago that did a great presentation. And this one it's very different because there's a lot of touch points and a lot of integration of sense of place, identity, but also some of them are more storytelling, some of them are more advertising that needs to be aggregated. We also did all of the engineering design for the CMS and content distribution in collaboration with Smart Monkeys, but it was all under Gentilhomme. Which we make it really easy because we got to really design the system together and implement it. So I'm excited to show it to you once it's out. And going back to my themes that humans have been building story worlds for as long as we've existed. I think from the intricate graffiti from the Templar in my village to our ancestor in Lascaux, there is something fundamental there that is storytelling is not really optional, and I think it's central, and that's what it means to be human. And this early immersive world, there weren't decoration. I think there were tools to communicate, to inspire, and to create a shared sense of wonder. And I feel like today technology gives us great tools to tell story, but they also challenge how we do them. And the real question still is, how do we create immersive worlds that truly connect with people?
Give me a real
The answer is not in technology. I think it's creating experiences that are both magical and meaningful, and to really focus on how we engage with the audience.
Somebody broke it.
And when those creative visions are aligned with the stakeholder goals, I feel you can create something very special. And we don't create memorable experience for audiences. We want to create lasting values for the brand, the venues, and the spaces that host them. And at Gentilhomme, we see ourselves as part of the lineage of storyteller and building from the Lascaux era, immersive world where technology, business objectives come together in a timeless and transformative matters. That sounds obvious, but we try to honor it. Thank you.
Amazing, Tiva. Thank you so much. Oh God, my voice is like absolutely awful. That was really, really, truly brilliant. We'll hold this up here for 1 sec, but we can also get, you know, and then let's bring it down. Let's go faces on. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to kind of raise your hand and ask them. All right. There was a question that came from Mark. Mark Lawrence had a question he wants me to ask, though. Josh, can you ask Thibaut what is the best framework that architects need to think of to create a vehicle for this digital engagement to work the most successfully? So, if you're an architect and you want to do right, how do we best engage?
I think it's honestly like it's funny because on the airport thing we've seen it. We've done 5 or 6 now, and now we're engaged very early in the process. Like Orlando, it's almost like the process. People thought that we were the paint. They was just like, oh, we're just gonna put content in there, and then they realize that absolutely not, right? So then you have to work that back up, towards the architect's vision. Like, hey, what did the architect wanted to do? They wanted to do this window. So I feel like you have to kind of onboard your partners and creators at the beginning. So you collaborate and you make sure that the procurement is done in a way that you're not going to dilute that along the way. And now we're involved at, almost at the same time as the architects and also on the technical design side of it, and it goes together. You have that vision from the architect, then we amplify it, and then we have all sorts of technical tools, VR, whatever, like a digital twin. All of that stuff is great to design it, but you kind of have to design everything together. But right now the procurement vehicles, they are not really built that way because it's still like a building type of procurement thing, right? So you have the architect, and then it goes for bid, and then it goes for tech, and then it goes for integrator, and then it goes for designers. And so it's really hard to get it well. We've been very lucky because all of the projects we've been involved were with amazing people. So, and also we knew each other quite a bit, so that helps. But yeah, I would say start early and get a dream team and just go for it.
Awesome. Jackie, you had a question you want to ask?
Sorry. Yeah, I was just wondering how Do you employ an iterative process in which you're sort of gauging the reactions and the emotions of your audience as you're creating? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, there is a lot of iterative process for sure. It depends on the nature of the work. Um, but usually there is a lot of stakeholders, so you kind of have to start with workshop, to understand what the vision is, to lock in on the vision, and then to iterate in design. Usually, when you get to production, you don't iterate anymore. You would iterate on tech, and behavior and UX. But there is for every phase, there is a lot of iteration, I would say.
All right. And do you guys do, I mean, you had mentioned VR. Do you do a lot of like pre-visualization of these experiences? Like yeah, how do you sort of test and iterate them in that way?
Yeah, it's like personally, I really don't like VR. It's a thing that that,
Yeah.
that I really hate deeply. Also because I get motion sickness, but it's an amazing tool, and we're starting that during Orlando because Orlando we did during the pandemic. So all of the workshop that we planned with the client was basically gone. And so we wanted the C people to be able to see it. So we took all of the 3D models from the client and the architects, and we built like an engine, Unreal Engine pipeline. And we would be able to push content straight to headsets that the client had, and then we would have them see it that way. It's good to approve scale and speed. It's not really good for details, obviously, but then you have all the tools to focus on details and color and all that stuff. But for a sense of scale and speed, it's really good.
And at what point did you guys actually get to test on the real hardware?
Oh, early enough. Like for Houston, I think we got the servers before production because we wanted to validate all of the pixel bandwidth on the new ADA cards because we used like the new NVIDIA RTX. So, and we wanted to test all of the frame lock because we were doing a lot of particles and stuff, and so all of
Yeah,
this
yeah.
was done across all of the servers, and we wanted to make sure that the clock was good and performance were good and stuff. So Pixera, they sent us 2 or 3 servers, and we beat the shit out of them. and
Nice.
then make sure it was gonna work. And it worked.
So you had them in the studio then?
Yeah, for sure. And
All
at the
right.
studio, we have 2 LED walls too. We have a 8x10 2 mm and an 8x10 4 mm. And we have a color correction pipeline that works very well. That is, and we work closely with nanolumens also. So we have all of the color curves done. And so all our color correction, you can do it on our color room, and then we can finalize it on the tile. And when we ship it, we know it's going to look very similar because we have the same color management, and because Nano is very precise with their color management.
Yeah. No, I think it's an important point because I think when people are first jumping in it, they don't always know, like, you need to get the hardware. You need to see it on the hardware. Like don't just like deploy a file into a space or you're gonna get totally screwed. Um,
So,
Davala has a question. Uh,
Hi, can you hear me?
we can.
Hi, my name is Divya. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for this amazing talk. I am a junior designer. I want to break into this industry. I know a little bit of like touch designer and stuff, but if I want to create or practice um, creating like tiny installations, whether it's just using a projector at home, what advice do you give for young designers like me? Do you
uh,
recommend taking a
it's
course or
already
yeah?
it's already a great start. I feel like you need to connect with, like, go with the thing that has the biggest community. Like touch designer, it's really good because you get a lot
Yeah.
of resources. And it's kind of easy enough if you're not like a developer, you can prototype fairly quickly. Like same with Max or Pure Data, maybe not Pure Data, but yeah, things that are kind of easy to manipulate. And even if it's messy, who cares? As long as you get it
Hmm.
right, like just get the idea working, and it doesn't matter if it breaks, just break it. It's okay, until so at some point you're gonna get an engineer to do it well. So just like just like prototype the shit out of it, and do it a lot. Just
Hmm.
don't do like a bunch of training, and then because like it's just like it's not inspiring. You know, like yeah, you're gonna get a banana explode into particles in touch, like those things, like just like what is it you want to do, and then just like get it done, whatever it takes. Uh,
I love it. I love it.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I just add on to this because get asked this often too. I would say that like know your learning style. Like some people are very capable of just like knocking out tutorials. Like I'm not one of those people. Like there's like some people who like can sit there with an acoustic guitar by themselves in a room for like hours and do it. Like I'm not one of those people. Like I need to be in a band. So like if you need to be in a band, join a band, and like do a project. Like just make stuff. All right. Sorry. Your talk. Your talk. Okay, here we go. Nathan had a question.
Thibaut,
Nathan.
amazing work. Happy New Year, everybody. I was curious in regards to your airport projects. What's the content refresh frequency that you recommend to your clients?
Usually we get a 5-year contract and we try to refresh every year. Not all of it, but you build from foundation. And it depends on the objectives and budget, but usually, they would like do that. And then, you can do like special event stuff, and eventually you rotate differently the content.
Excellent. Thank you.
You know
All
that.
right. Cool. Tiba, are you guys usually like, are you on contract for a couple years afterwards to like do refreshes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I've seen a number of projects where they do not budget for that, and it gets still very old, very very quickly, very quickly. Yara, you had a question.
Hi, thank you so much for that talk. Really inspiring because I'm trying to kind of break into that industry after like working in UI and UX, but actually starting from interaction design. So trying to find my way back now. And similar to Devala, I've been like working with touch designer and stuff, but I kind of wanted to know more from you about your team, their skill sets, and like what is the software that you're using most? You mentioned like Unreal.
Mhm.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. The team is kind of eclectic. It's a weird bunch. We have quite a bit of CG artists that do. Our pipeline is Houdini and Blender, um, because Houdini is just a great tool to do like all of simulation, and I mean it's just because our mix is developers and CG, so we kind of like tools where we can program in it. Blender is because we can customize it. It's not necessarily because we like it, but it's just like it's open source, so we can modify it and we can create custom pipelines for rendering and all of that on because we do such large scale stuff. So our pipeline is a bit hybrid. And then for all of the interactive stuff, we're mainly C++ shop. They would do anything, obviously, but C++ has always been our go-to for production, and so Unreal kind of made sense because of that. Then there is a lot of Python. There is a lot of prototyping in Touch. We very, very rarely push Touch in production because we feel it's not really maintainable. It's good for art stuff or prototyping, but not for production. It gets you an idea done quickly, but then we would probably redo it in C++ or in Unreal.
All right, fantastic. Okay, Juliana, you had a question. You want to ask? You want to ask? Oh, yes.
Yep. Am I done? Oh, I'm here. Okay.
Go for it.
Sorry, I'm in a car right now.
No problem.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful talk. Was kind of wondering, do you integrate AI into your processes, and how do you do so? Thank you very much. This has been so inspiring, and thank you, Josh.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, for sure, but not in production ever. I mean, ever for now. But um, we have a lot of custom tools that we built. We're more like a comfy UI type of thing. We don't really use, like Gemini and things, but so we have tools that we built using models that exist. It's used a lot into iteration for mood boards or ideation, like instead of spending a week doing a 3D render, we would probably go from sketch to look dev quickly, but then we would move away from it because it looks kind of dull, and then it's good for to get an idea, and then the render, it's always weird, and also it's just not there. Like you cannot really use that in production. It's actually more work than to do the work, um, especially at the resolution we're doing, and especially when you want to have attention to details, it's extremely hard. I don't know if you tried it, but it's actually very frustrating. Like if you try it, you're like, oh fuck, this is amazing because you get a result right away, and you're impressed by that result. But then the next thing is it's awful, and it's going to take you hours to try to get something kind of interesting, and it's never really is, and then it's just then you end up trashing it or you end up patching it in CG. So for us, it's more like at the beginning, it's good. Okay, let's get an idea quickly, and then we move away from it. And then for automation and scripting and coding a little bit for things that we can monitor. Because again, we don't do like black box coding. We're not gonna do a cursor thing, like it's more gonna be we have a framework for all of the function we will use, all our plugins, like all of that would be like kind of AI assistant stuff, but it's things that we've done and it's things that we know how they work and we can maintain them because maintenance is really hard.
Totally. All right. David, you have a question? All right. Give him a beat. If not, I can add. Oh, did he pop on? Okay, I'll do it. I'll ask. What would you recommend to a mid-level producer, like motion designer, as an ecosystem to get started with low budget, especially for interactive experiences where user interacts with the video?
What do you mean, like for tech?
I don't know what that means. David, can you clarify? I think he's probably asking, what would you recommend for like a motion, like if I guess like a motion design project, like tools for motion design project where it's interactive.
Blender is great. Blender and Unreal, it's pretty good.
Yeah. It
Yeah, I
sounds like
mean,
but it sounds like for something interactive stuff too.
hmm.
And interacting with video, it sounds like touch designer to me.
That should be good.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, he's waiting to call. I can't go live cam. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I would say, but yeah, if you're talking like low budget, like interactive video, touch designer sounds probably about right to me. Okay. Sorry, totally losing my voice. All right, Aaron, you had a question. You want to ask?
Yeah. Hi, thanks for this conversation. I think this is a great way to start off the year. So my question, I was inspired by your statement of just kind of being conflicted on the idea of the medium is the message, the medium is not the message. And so in those instances where you either are hired or maybe even pursuing a more personal project, how, or not, maybe not how, but what factors would influence the way you are telling your story and what medium you decide to go with?
Well, usually the medium is kind of decided before. We try to come up with constraints as much as possible, and then try to get away from them. So it's kind of vague, but you have to get the medium out of the way. Like if the all of the study of the space, like viewing angle or what people the journey of the user, and that's kind of the beginning, like that's the constraint, like for an airport it's okay, we want to do interactive, but there is no operation, so it's not like a theme park. You're not going to do things that are too complicated because people need to understand it right away. So once you get that kind of a framework, then you can work around that. You can decide what's actually a message, what's the story, what's the identity, what is it that we're trying to do. But it has to work within that framework, and it has to work within that template, if you want to call it that way.
Fantastic. Cheryl, you had a question.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to follow up. I'm putting on my architect hat right now, and talk about the challenges of working with architects. But Thibaut, I like what you said about future world building, about like positioning this talk that way. And I feel, you talk about working as early possible with the architects. I would say you even have to come in earlier, because by the time the architects have sort of developed their narrative, they've developed it with the tools that they know and what they understand. And part of the opportunities that someone like your team can bring to a project is it's too late already, right? Even if they're just at a PD or concept design phase. So I think for me, this notion of, you were talking about iteration and prototyping, that comes with the ideas as well. And like sort of folding in all of the different components as a kind of almost an education process to my colleagues. And I think, you talk about AI. AI is a really great way of starting to work that and workshop it and show people what's possible. And the challenge is, if coming in further upstream, the challenge is to find the right partners. Like, you're going to come into a lot of projects, and a lot of firms aren't there yet. They just aren't. So I think that's the big challenge, because the storytelling has to be at the core before the architectural narrative. And that's where it's really important to bring you in. And that's what we're trying to do. I'm not going to toot our horn too much, but we're going to be opening a prototyping lab in LA in the next couple of months. But we just want to bring as many of you guys in and help us build different worlds than what's traditionally being done.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's kind of both way. I don't think it's necessarily too late, but it's better if we do it together, that's for sure. And what happened most of the time, it's also the architect is not there when we get there. So it's almost like it's too much into phases. Like the thing is done, the architect is gone, and then we take it on, and sometimes we don't even get to talk to the architect. So we have no idea what the vision was. So sometimes we have to do that work of like, okay, what did they want to do on that thing? Like, what was the vision behind it? So we like to start early, but we also like to kind of keep the architects involved, because it's it's interesting to understand what they wanted to do with the building. But it's some collaboration happens very well that way, and some firm they have that knowledge in-house too. So sometimes it's procurement that actually kind of screw that up.
Yeah, and I think I'll stop here, but that process, we can't circumvent it, right? Like, that's contractual. So if you're
Yeah, but
coming in earlier, sorry?
We could bid at a group. We could change
Yeah,
procurement if they understand that it's better for them.
yeah, yeah. But where you get stuck with AIA rules too and contracts. But again, the earlier that you guys can come in, the better partners you have that'll allow you to do that, the better it's going to be, because that influences our work.
Yeah. I mean, what I've always encouraged with my studio is that, like, having our whole team is very expensive, but having like a me or a Thibaut in the room early on with like maybe a producer to take notes, not that expensive. So just like starting very, very lean, with those strategic leads who can just like be there to advocate for what we do, I think is very important. Sorry, Thibaut took that one.
I agree. I agree.
Dav, you had a question?
No. I was actually just nope.
Flagging
Pass
somebody
on
else's
next
question.
person.
Oh, good. Good to see you. All right. Jesse, you had a question.
Yeah, hi. Hey, Josh. Thibaut, good to see you. Yeah, my question was about your kind of your content development, and how much of it is generative versus like pre-produced content. It seemed like it was a good mix of kind of like responsive generative stuff versus like really well-produced, beautiful work. And how do those two things kind of come together in the process?
Yeah, they depends on the project, but we like to mix it up. And again, it's about having diversity, because when you want to do like AAA content, whether it's live action or CGI, it becomes very pricey and you can't do that much of it. And then rendered in real time and interactive, it's not necessarily cheaper, but the runtime is longer. So there is kind of that balance of you can balance engagement and you can balance length of a capsule. When you do like something that is gamified, then you can run it for 10 minutes and it's fun.
Mhm.
And it's the same price. Once you've done it, you can kind of extend it and you can change the color. You can change depending on the day. In Houston, we match the sun. And the season. So the sun, all of the shadow stuff that you see on the content, it matches what's happening outside. And because it's a skylight, you really feel like it's part of the architecture. So things
So
like this.
you're getting live data from that, and
Yeah. There was like a bunch of API stuff. We get weather, we get the wind, we get the sun, tons of things, traffic, whatever. It's kind of a subtext. We don't really make it like a gimmick, but it's where we hooked up a lot of APIs and we changed the content that way. And Houston, it's about 2/3 probably generative and interactive,
Mhm.
but the rest of it is fairly high end. So the balance, it really depends on the project. There
Yeah.
was an appetite on that one also to do something pretty unique, and Pixar was on
I think
board.
it's a great blend. It really keeps it fresh and
Yeah.
thing.
But again, it doesn't mean cheaper, it just means it's different. Yeah.
Maybe cheaper on terms of like capital, right? Like you
No,
don't have to keep feeding it as much, maybe if it's like
no,
fully
it's
generated.
on equipment it's actually worse because let's say you get a Pixar and you wanna run pre-render, you can use a Pixar 4 and output 4x4K. It's gonna do it easily. When you do Unreal, it's one 4K per box. So you're quadrupling your capex for equipment, and then you have to make sure there is redundancy and everything is linked and blah blah blah. And so no, it's definitely not cheaper. But then you don't have storage, so you save on storage. But still, those boxes are it's quite a machine.
Sorry, I'm Fleming here. Okay, so we have like two more questions. I'm gonna actually go. I'm gonna go with the Sarah one because I think it's actually a really interesting hot take. If we have time, Chris, we'll hit you up. Sarah, your question.
Hi, sorry, I'm Sarah. So yeah, I just, like I've been working on on the AV side for a long time, and like one thing that I've noticed is that, early on, big projection mapping was really compelling. And then, bigger and bigger displays going into public situations like stadiums and airports, and then MSG Sphere and et cetera. And I feel like we're in maybe like the third generation of like big screen installations in terms of like their life cycles for the hardware, but then also like the evolution of the content. I guess from my own perspective, I feel like we're reaching a point where big screen content like this, regardless of like whether it's real time and interactive or whatever, is starting to sort of just read as content on a two-dimensional surface. And so, how do you see your practice evolving as we as human beings, like and that's sort of operating in the media ecosystem that we've been operating in for the past 20 years or so? How do you see your practice evolving towards tactility, and if there's a moment that you feel like we're going to be moving away from this like visual sensory overwhelm into like some other type of thing, into games, things that sort of force interaction between individuals, and like things that recede more into architecture, and don't necessarily feel like they're just there, since like I think that putting content on architectural surfaces at some point is not going to drive this sense of like relevance and awe that it does now. I think in 10 years it's just not going to feel as interesting, right? So how do you see your practice evolving for that moment that I think is coming sooner than maybe we all would like to admit?
Yeah, I agree. It's a very good point. And it's always bigger and more complex and more pixels and it's true. Like like Nano Lumens would say, the LED is drywall. They are the drywall. They can shape anything. That's how they sell it, and it's great. And that's what they do. Like you can do literally any shape and dress any type of architectural piece with an LED, and it's going to be great. But I feel like personalization is going to be a big thing. I don't like the word gamification, but it's more like personalization is a thing, like you sit in theme park quite a bit and connected objects and wearables and even not wearables like ultra wideband on a phone, like to be able to extend content experience and content delivery to your personal taste or experience, I think is going to be a big thing. I don't know in architectural or in public spaces yet, but I think it might bleed there. I don't know. I'm excited about that at least. But
Yeah, it's like exciting challenges. I've already seen a lot of that type of stuff happening, this desire for personalization as a way to sort of reach people. But what I also see is that people don't want to deal with phones. Like I'm ready to throw my phone out the window, right? When I
yeah,
think
no,
about
but
how
you don't
much
need to.
time and
You
energy has
don't.
been spent on like moving the little buttons around on these little glass squares, I'm just like, oh gosh, that's all
I'm
going.
not talking about that. I think the phone is
Yeah.
a vehicle, and I think the phone is gonna be something else. To me, if we want to talk about AI, that's what AI will do. It will do crazy personalization. And then whatever you carry with you that has that beacon,
Yeah.
like it happens to be your phone because that's what we have, but it would change. It would be something else. Maybe that we won't have screens or whatever. It would be some type of audio shit that you have or watch. I don't know. But once you have that, like it's easy to personalize everything once you get all of this information about yourself, especially in AI model, then all of the content that you're going to get fed or sent to
Yeah.
your way is going to be so much personal. I don't know. I
It's
think
like a wearable identification vector, but at the same time, every time like results in like a privacy conversation and like running afoul of like or like in parallel to these conversations about anonymity and privacy by design and like how much can you really do? How much do people want you to do? Where's the line in which it becomes creepy? Like I feel like that's all like that to
pretty
me is like
perfect
where the
already.
interesting is happening right now for sure, you know.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Already.
Okay. All right. We are slightly over time. Thibaut, this was really fantastic. Truly, truly enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. As we close out today, how can people find you? How can people help you? How can we give you a better 2026?
More collaboration, more crazy projects that we don't know how to make. And, it's a small community, so let's make sure we stay tight. And I think you've been doing a great job, and I'm happy to be part of this community. And yeah, let's just do beautiful things that connect people together.
Love it. I love it. Thank you so much. See everybody. Hope to see you on another future spaces. All right. Bye, everyone.